Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and I just had not tweeted, but wrote on Facebook. I'm live. Yesterday, I don't know, people didn't really get notifications, so I barely got any views on Facebook. So hopefully you guys are tuning in. Seeing that more people are coming into YouTube, which makes me happy because for a long time it was just folks on Facebook. So God bless you all. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and this is Black Tea News. And today we're going to be talking about McCarthy, who's going beast on the media, which people are very happy about, very pleasantly surprised about. The Democrats are getting booted, or not the Democrats, but particularly Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell from the Intel Committee, which obviously is justified. And the Democrats wanted them on there anyway. And McCarthy's, of course not. That's stupid. So he really gave them the business and brought it to them. So we'll be talking about that. Also, going to be talking a little bit about the story with Adult Swim, Rick and Morty. Their co-creator is they're cutting ties with them because of a domestic abuse charge or allegation, but so they're cutting ties with them, and someone had a joke that about, well, I'll show you when we get there, that kind of tied into me wanting to talk about that versus like Mindy Kaling and other stuff like that. So we'll talk about that as well as some other things. Finally, it seems like some domestic terrorists who've been attacking pro-life organizations and pregnancy crisis centers have been, the FBI or Justice Department are finally coming at them. So that's good because it was just happening. It seemed like there was no movement. So that gives me some hope for humanity, I suppose, because it really, you saw this vandalism and arson and other stuff, and you weren't hearing anything about it. Yet you're hearing about them targeting pro-life people for being like sidewalk advocates and other stuff like that. So at least there's that news. So we'll cover that story and Antifa being indicted for targeting the groups. So before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles that we have, different merchandise that we have on the site, like Life Wins, Roe Casey aborted. I have this Make it Crack Whack Trump 2024 shirt, which I got, or I'm sorry, I made after the story about the crack pipes in the Biden administration came out. So that one always makes me laugh. So you guys can check out that and other merch that we have at the store. I'm wearing some merch right now. Let me see if I have a picture of it. Yeah, the Be Better Not Better shirt. So you guys can go ahead and get that at blacktnews.com along with some other stuff. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It does cost to stream. It costs to run my website. It costs to travel. Like I traveled this past weekend. So it just, you guys know that nothing in life is free. We're not a bunch of commies or something like that and living in a fantasy land. So if you can help, I very much appreciate it. No times are tough, but if you can, God bless you. Otherwise, I thank you guys for liking, for subscribing, for telling other people to watch, for recommending. I am growing quite steadily, especially on YouTube now. So I thank you very much for that. But make sure you're going to the website and putting in your email address, because you never know when big tech is going to censor you. As a matter of fact, I had a bit of a scare on Sunday night. I got flagged for a video. Maybe I did last week or maybe the week before, but it was about a CNN analyst, Lena Wen. And so she was talking about how we need to look at COVID deaths differently, as opposed to just saying everyone who's tested positive with COVID to say, oh, well, they died with COVID or from COVID. And so Lena Wen was like pro lockdown, masking, all that different stuff. And so she's had a shift, and now she's saying like sensible things that people have been saying. So I pointed that out, and granted, I'm pretty sure the title is what flagged me, and the title was CNN gives another win to the tinfoil hat people. So I'm pretty sure that's what got me flagged, and so I had to and I had this like high of just coming back from the March for Life and going to the student summit, and I'm like, oh, things are great. I'm approaching 17,000 followers, and I know other people have like millions upon millions, but hey, we'll get there. We're growing, and but I was just excited. And on my way back from DC, I stopped at a my brother was staying in Ohio to go to a church that a friend's church, and so we decided to just pop in and also attend the church as well service. So we were in his hotel just kind of chilling, and then I got an email, a notification that I saw that I couldn't post something on YouTube, and then I looked, and lo and behold, I had a strike, and so I appealed it. And I appealed it by saying, I know COVID, and I said this in the video, by the way. I'm like, I know COVID is real. It was a real deadly pandemic. My father was actually in the hospital for months. He had to learn to walk again. I'm not saying it's fake. I was just covering what Lena Wynn said and had to, I don't know, do my fealty sort of pledge to them. And they did thankfully reverse it. But it's just really so annoying because I'm like, did you even watch it, or did you just get annoyed from the title itself and flag me from there? Because other stuff that has been flagged where I got a strike, I'm pretty sure it was the titles that they didn't like. There was one time I got flagged for an election integrity thing, and I did this. Uh, I guess it was 2020 or maybe like January of 2021, and I had some friends on, and I've never used language like, yeah, the Dominion software stole stuff. I've never used language like that. And so they put a strike on it. So I had to be like, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. And just give them a breakdown like that. And so they ended up, releasing it. And so I'm like, you know what? I think if they had like genuinely watched the whole thing, that they still like nobody said anything crazy on it or anything like that. But I did have some guests, and I still think they probably wouldn't have liked some of the stuff that they're said. So they were just looking for what the magic words to say, I believe Joe Biden is the president. And so the strikes, they're annoying, and they can happen. So it was also really annoying because they don't fall off for 90 days. And if you do get a strike, then you can't apply to be monetized. And I have enough people to apply to be monetized. I still need some more watch hours. So please watch things. Or you need either a certain amount of watch hours or a certain amount of views on shorts. And my shorts are doing really well. That's how I got a ton of subscribers very quickly. So I could very well reach the shorts before I get the watch hours. And I would need 10 million views on the shorts. And that's not crazy. So I could very well reach that before I reach the watch hours. But whichever one, I'll apply for monetization. I don't know if they'll actually give me that monetization. But FYI, I'm not monetized right now. So I do very much appreciate people who want to support Black Teen News and have done so on the website. It does really help, whether it's $10 or $20, $50, 100, like people have done more. God bless you. But I'm appreciative of people who helped to sponsor me going to March for Life this past weekend, particularly my gold sponsors, who was Brighter Michigan PAC, uh, Right to Life Plymouth, and Michigan's Conservative Coalition. So, I thank you all. So I'm sorry going off on a little rant, but just wanted to say, go sign up and go put your email on the website. It's very important because when you do get a strike, you can't even post like face on YouTube. Now you can post messages that'll pop up in people's feeds. It won't even allow you to do that. So not only can you not upload videos, you can't upload a post. So the people who follow you on YouTube, they don't know what's going on unless they go somewhere else to and they follow you off site somewhere else, on whether through email or Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So make sure that you're following in different places. The place that I post most is Facebook. So if you want to really get into touch how much I post, the most is Facebook, and I do write stuff on Twitter quite a bit. So make sure you're following me other places. If you go to the website, you can see where all my socials are. So just wanted to say that. And very quickly, you can pre-order my book. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. If you go to the website and go ahead and get the pre-order. It's just for ebook pre-order right now. If you want the physical copy, just sign up for updates and I'll let you guys know when you'll be able to do that. But please go ahead and support. Okay, so you guys know that I like to start with something humorous. So um now I saw today, just kind of scrolling through, that Rick and Morty, which is a very popular TV show on Adult Swim and has been for some time, that Adult Swim is parting ways because their co-creator has been accused, or actually there's charges for domestic abuse. So Adult Swim cuts, this is from Hollywood Reporter, Adult Swim cuts ties with Justin Rowland following domestic abuse charges. If you're not familiar with Rick and Morty, this is the show right here. I've never seen a single episode of this show. I have repeated a line and used a meme. Your boos mean nothing to me. I see what makes you cheer, and that hits me right in my soul. So really good line. I'm sure there's a lot of memeable things or from that TV show. Um, and they say that the voice roles are going to be recast and they're going to continue. Um, So the co-creator was charged with felony domestic abuse in Orange County, California. Adult Swim has ended his association with Justin Rowland. Adult Swim and Cartoon Network Boomerang Senior VP Communications Mary Moore said in a statement on Tuesday, Adult Swim distributes Rick and Morty, the hit adult animation comedy that Rowland co-created and executive produced, for which he voiced both the titular Rick and Morty. As the Hollywood Reporter reported on January 17th, Adult Swim isn't even halfway through a massive 70-episode order for the show, one of the brand's most popular titles, commissioned by the channel in 2018. Sources to say Rick and Morty is set to continue with Roland's voice roles to be recast. The Roland's will always be credited as co-creator. Fellow co-creator Dan Harmon will now be the lone showrunner. The show is locked through season 10. Um, so he's got several projects ongoing with Hulu, including as a co-creator of the streamer's Solar Opposites, on which he voices the main character. The show was renewed for a fifth season in October on the platform's Koala Man, which premiered January 9th. He does voice work and is executive producer. He still has an overall deal with 20th Television Animation, which produces Solar Opposites and Koala Man. They've reached out to them for comment. So anyway, you might be like, what is humorous? I'm like, that whole story is obviously not, but G Prime 85 made this. Cartoon Network in talks with Mindy Kaling to take over Rick and Morty. So Mindy Kaling, you might know her from The Office and the Mindy Project. And so Rick and Morty, that's what they look like. So he did the little joke, like her recasting them to fit her. And the joke there is that she's done this with Scooby-Doo. And and it's not even Scooby-Doo, it's just a Velma show that's on HBO Max. And I think it's like one of the worst rated things on IMDb ever for like fans. And people who are watching it or have watched it, there's people who can't even stand to hate watch it because they say it's so bad. Now I kind of put it out there that I wanted to make my sister hate watch it with me, but and I asked her several times. She was with me over the weekend. I wanted to watch it with her during our downtime and record her reactions because I'm sure they would have been hysterical. But she just refused to do it. She didn't want to do it at all. Um, which I get. And I thought I'd be able to kind of make her do, not make, but like, kind of pressure her and then she would fold. But she was pretty adamant about not watching it. And I didn't like Scooby Doo. So I'm not, if I watch it, I won't be watching it. It would purely be to hate watch and to have the authority to hate watch and talk about it. But some of the clips are just so ridiculous. There's a scene and I would play it, but I just don't want to get dinged by the copyright because I'm sure HBO will get me. Um, and Fred was accused of murdering someone, and she's like, "Yeah, Fred did it. He's white. If I were him, I would kill him just to get. I would kill someone just to get away with it." And I'm like, "What kind of what?" I'm like, "Is I like?" And I know it's a cartoon and it's exaggerated and it's supposed to be funny. I didn't think it was funny. Um, like, is it a commentary on how stupid people are and stretch white privilege and racism to think that white people can just murder people and get away with it? It was there's all sorts of absurd clips, but people are convinced that with the Velma cartoon that Mindy pitched something to HBO, had nothing to do with Scooby Doo, and then rewrote it like, oh, we could do a different take on Velma, and basically just had the same stuff. Because there's so many things about the show that's nothing like Scooby Doo, and the characters aren't the same, and they race change Velma, and Velma is like a self insert. A self insert is when you like the writer or somebody inserts themselves into a movie or book or something. So I've definitely seen and read books like that. There was a terrible, terrible book called I Am Starfire, and it was a comic book about Starfire's daughter. Like, if you've ever seen Teen Titans, flying through the air, throwing star bolts or whatever they're called, her powers. She's been on Teen Titans TV show, cartoon, and they've had Titans, and I've got Titan books and stuff. And the person who wrote the book clearly wrote herself in, and she's like a fat goth bisexual. No, I don't know if she's bisexual, maybe she's lesbian. And it was an awful book. That was sadly, it's probably like the last. No, I would say that was the last comic book I read, just to comment on it, and I don't think I ever did a review. But no, the last comic I read was Eric July's book. That was the last one I read. So just crazy. So yeah, I thought this was funny and worth mentioning. So I just needed to give you the context so I could share. But I a lot of people are sick of the self-inserting and changing so many properties just for the heck of it, just for, I don't know, the writers' egos, or just inclusion diversity. Like, people want to enjoy the properties that they're familiar with. Now, I've never in my life enjoyed Scooby-Doo. My baby sister loves Scooby-Doo, and I sort of resented every time it was on the television because I just was never into it. I never got it. And apparently a lot of people obviously like Scooby-Doo because it's stood the test of time. I don't know if that would be said about Velma. When you people can't even hate watch something, you've done something very special. Anyway, let's move on to like serious sort of commentary. So the Democrats, Adam Schiff and Swalwell, have been kicked off of the Intel committee, and so the Democrats are upset, and the media is questioning McCarthy. McCarthy's just giving it to him. So I'm going to go ahead and play his response to the media when as they are coming for him for this decision. Sorry.
Intel committee. Is Santos on the Intel committee? Am I allowing Schiff to be on other committees? Go right ahead.
Respectfully, thank you. Because you have direct power over who goes on the intelligence committee, you also will be able to raise for your full House, taking off other Democrats, perhaps Representative Omar. But you have said that lying to us is something that means you should be removed from the intelligence committee. But why is it not a factor?
Well, let me be very.
This is a man who should not be on committee, something you do have power over.
He's got elected by his district, so. Okay, let me be very clear and respectful to you. You ask me a question. When I answer it, it's the answer to your question. You don't get to determine whether I answer your question or not, okay? In all respect. Thank you. No, let's answer her question. You just raised a question. I'm going to be very clear with you. The Intel Committee is different. You know why? Because what happens in the Intel Committee, you don't know. What happens in the Intel Committee, although the secrets are going on in the world, other members of Congress don't know. What did Adam Schiff do as the chairman of the Intel Committee? What Adam Schiff did, use his power as a chairman and lie to the American public. Even the Inspector General said it. When Devin Nunes put out a memo, he said it was false. When we had a laptop, he used it before an election to be politics and say that it was false and said it was the Russians. When he knew different, when he knew the intel, if you talk to John Radcliffe, DNI, he came out ahead of time and says there's no intel to prove that, and he used his position as chairman, knowing he has information the rest of America does not, and lied to the American public. When a whistleblower came forward, he said he did not know the individual, even though his staff had met with him and set it up. So no, he does not have a right to sit on that. But I will not be like Democrats and play politics with these, where they removed Republicans from committees and all committees. So yes, he can serve on a committee, but he will not serve on Intel because it goes to the national security of America. And I will always put them first, all right? And if you want to talk about Swalwell, let's talk about Swalwell, because you have not had the briefing that I had. I had the briefing and Nancy Pelosi had the briefing from the FBI. The FBI never came before this Congress to tell the leadership of this Congress that Eric Swalwell had a problem with a Chinese spy until he served on Intel. So it wasn't just us who were concerned about it. The FBI was concerned about putting a member of Congress on the Intel Committee that has the rights to see things that others don't because of his knowledge and relationship with a Chinese spy. They brought it to the works of the leaders. I've got that briefing. So I do not believe he should sit on that committee. And I believe there's 200 other Democrats that can serve on that committee. So this has nothing to do with Santos. Santos is not on the Intel Committee. But you know what? Those voters elected Schiff, even though he lied. Those voters elected Swalwell, even though he lied to the American public too. So you know what? I'll respect his voters too, and they'll serve on committees, but they will not serve on a place that has national security relevance because integrity matters to me. That's the answer to your question.
So I'm seeing people really impressed with his answer and how stern he is with the press. I saw Mike Cernovich retweet it and say, "Hey, for you folks who are we're coming at me for saying McCarthy will be able to do the job or something. You can feel free to apologize." And some people were like, "Okay, I'm pleasantly surprised by McCarthy." And some people are like, I wasn't whining and crying about it, but I didn't like it, and now I feel better than I did before. So, he is a spokesperson. So I didn't like as some stuff I saw from McCarthy as a minority leader during election time, because the only vision they appeared to have was we're going to fire 87,000 IRS agents. And I'm like, how are you going to pull that off? How are you going to pull that off? So, and that doesn't feel personal enough to people as far as a winning message, because people think that those folks are going to go after billionaires and millionaires and, and the 1% and all that stuff. So people don't realize, hey, they're looking at your Venmo account to see if you made more than $600 or what's in your Cash App account, and they're going to come after you. And people say that, but you have to really visualize and break stuff down and make it really personal. One thing that the Democrats are really good at is making stuff so personal. I mean, that's one reason why they always do identity politics, because you can, if you feel one way as a Black person or whatever, like as a woman, as a whatever, blah blah blah. So Republicans, they don't have to play those games, but like instead of like identity politics, with race or something like that, it's like, as a mother, you maybe you have a side gig, knitting or something, and the government comes for you because you have $601 in your Cash App account or your Square account, because you did a craft show on the weekend. And so you got to make stuff like that personal to people to feel it. And I'm just like, it doesn't seem like you guys have vision. But anyway, I'm glad that he pushed so hard back on those folks, and he's going to continue to have to do that, especially as they keep saying like, well, you don't want these Democrats here because they're liars. But what about George Santos, who lied about? I'm floored how all this happened. He lied about going to college. He lied about who he worked for. He lied about his heritage. Apparently, he did drag, dressed in drag. And if you haven't seen the photo of comparing him in drag to Gretchen Whitmer, it's hysterical. Um, but apparently, he's done it a few times, and it's just really, really bizarre. And I don't understand how someone could get so far. First of all, I want to say, for people who are like, people should just be, I don't know, punished to like, as to go to jail for lying when they campaign and stuff. Joe Biden sits in the White House right now, and he has famously lied about his resume, especially in his run for president, lied about his grades and how well he did in school. Um, when he was like, "Oh, I was the top of my class," when he was like, not at all. He was like near the bottom. And he lied about marching for civil rights, and he still tells this lie to this day. To this day. And he told it as a young man, and he did have to confess once he got outed. But even as a vice president, he still like embellishes and is and lies about, he lied in a black church to black voters about participating in the civil rights. And he did it again, like on the campaign trail running against Trump. And Jake Tapper and them were laughing about it on CNN. But it's something he still does. He lied to Charlemagne during the "You Ain't Black" interview, and when he's like, "If you have any problems signing between me and Trump, you ain't black," and which was so insulting. Um, I thought it was more funny than enraging. My sister, who showed it to me, was so mad, was furious about it. But I just thought it was funny. I'm like, it was the end of the interview, and you had to put your foot in your mouth like that. So that's really why I thought it was so funny. But he told Charlemagne that comment, and Charlemagne responded, and it's from the Breakfast Club. He said, "It's not about Trump. It's about me doing what's best for my community." And then Joe Biden's like, "Come on, man, look at my record. I've been endorsed by the NAACP every time I've run." And it's like, that's a lie right there. They don't do that. I'm pretty sure they have a clear favorite, but they still don't do that. So that's another lie. And he told like another lie too. He was said, I think, something about graduating at HBCU like or teaching at a H or something. But he continuously lied on his resume, and continues to lie to this day. So to act as though it's so unprecedented with Santos lying about stuff, it is just disingenuous. I mean, there's people who've lied about their military records and other stuff that have served, and none of that's good, by the way. I'm appalled with the whole situation, and I'm just in disbelief of how someone could advance so far in a campaign. And I think the voters failed, the media failed, unless the media just wanted a drag queen in Congress as a Republican. Maybe they knew this stuff and just decided that it needed to come out while he was actually in office so he could completely, continuously be a story the entire time he's there. Maybe that was their goal, but usually the media should be looking into stuff like this, or they do look into stuff like this. What about there's a people who voted for him? You should be looking at your candidates. I haven't I guess I got to look more into his story, because I don't know what the primary was like, if he was challenged, what was his competitor doing to not find out more about this stuff, and what was the state party doing um in that regard, because with the Michigan Republican Party, at least I used to work at the Michigan Republican Party, they would look into people who were running, and they weren't supposed to get involved in primaries, but if there was somebody who was problematic, they would definitely try to encourage someone else to run. They would. just to be frank. So it's really baffling how someone like him got to the point of where he's at. Which, by the way, and again, I have to see if he did have a primary challenger, but there's a reason why Republicans have everyone run in a spot, because you don't want a situation where you might have someone problematic that everyone has to vote for. Um, or so let's say all this stuff came out and people are like, I don't want to vote for him. And then you have a Democrat wins over a Republican. So you just got to make sure that you have people running every spot, but you have good people running every spot. And when there's someone bad on the ballot, that you have someone better. So it's even good. Sometimes it's great if there's no primary challenger, you could just focus on the general, but it's really good to still have some kind of competitor. So you can weed out who's the best. So the Santos thing is crazy. We'll have to go into more depth later, but I'm just floored that all this has happened. But anyway, here's Swalwell did comment about this whole situation.
Even though we have said publicly these smears are bringing death threats, he continues to do it, which makes us believe that there's an intent behind it. But we will not be quiet. We're not going away. I think he'll regret giving all three of us more time on our hands. But at the end of the day, our mission now is to restore the credibility and integrity of this institution, of which the Speaker has so gravely smashed and destroyed.
So you guys might recognize Swalwell. He goes on Fox from time to time, and of course, the other mainstream media, but you may recognize him in the internet is so mean to him. Not that he doesn't deserve it. One time there was a noise and people were like, "Did you pass gas?" And I think he denied it. And then they brought up the sound and the sound waves and all kind of stuff, and it became a big thing. But he also was that him who threatened to nuke us? Basically, he's like, your Second Amendment can't stand up to us because we have nukes. And it's like, bro, you would bust out the nukes on American citizens. So anyway, if you're not aware of the allegation is that he was compromised with the Chinese spy, and they were doing some nasty stuff. So I don't know if he's denying that he had close ties with them or just denying that they were doing the nasty. But he was a security threat. He was an issue. And as McCarthy said, him and Pelosi were briefed about him when he went on the Intelligence Committee. And there's certain things that they learned on the Intelligence Committee that everyone doesn't get to know. So he shouldn't be on the Intelligence Committee, and it really shouldn't be that controversial. I understand he's making a big fuss, but the Democrats could have just been respectful and wise to the actual institution and just pick some other Democrats to serve on the Intel Committee than Mr. Fang Fang and Swalwell. And Shifty Schiff, who has lied repeatedly, and everyone knows he's the leaker, or he leaks stuff to the press all the time. So that's the buzz around for the media and then CNN and Jake Tapper and other that Schiff is the one who just leaks stuff all the time. So if you can't keep your mouth shut, and then you would go ahead and lie about particulars and then lead people on like, oh yeah, we're going to get Trump on this, we're going to get Trump on this, and knowing that there's no evidence, misrepresenting evidence and findings, and then making stuff up, just flat out making stuff up. When they were having the hearings for impeachment, we were watching it over my parents' house one day, and I think this is the first one, and for the first impeachment for the president. And he went in like a rant where he not even embellished. He made up a story about Trump and being on a phone call with Ukraine or something. And my mom just kind of overheard. It's like, Trump said that? I was like, no, he didn't say that. This man's lying. And to feel like he could say something like that, knowing that everyone who's maybe tuning into his sound bites aren't going to get some kind of correction, it's just disgusting. Pencil neck, crazy Adam Schiff with googly eyes, lying his tail off. No, he should not be on the Intel committee, and they just kind of need to get over it. But I'm sure they'll fuss, and as Eric said, well, they're going to regret giving us, all this time. Why don't you just try to get on a different committee? But and what are you going to do besides, I don't know, get a mail order bride? I don't think anyone's afraid of you, bro. No matter how many times you threaten the American people with nuclear, I don't think people are afraid. So anyway, good on McCarthy fighting against the machine. So let's move on. Thankfully, there has been some progress made on some terrorists who have been harassing pro-life organizations. So there was some arrests made, breaking two alleged members of Jane's Revenge. Antifa indicted for targeting pro-life pregnancy center in Florida. So this comes from T-Post Millennial. Uh-oh. Hold on. Accidentally got the ad playing. Gonna read through this article really quick. The Department of Justice has indicted two Florida residents on charges of a civil rights conspiracy for spray painting threats on reproductive health services and for violating the FACE Act. If convicted, the two could face up to 12 years in prison, 3 years for supervised release, and up to $350,000 in fines. The grand jury indictment from the Middle District, Florida, alleges that Caleb Freestone, 27, and Amber Smith Stewart, 23, engaged in a conspiracy to prevent employees of reproductive health services facilities from providing those services. Two members of Miami Antifa, indicted by the feds for a string of Jane's Revenge-related vandalism targeting pro-life pregnancy centers in 2022. Caleb Freestone and Amber Smith Stewart are both charged with civil rights conspiracy and violating the FACE Act, Antifa Watch reported. According to the indictment, as part of the conspiracy, the defendants targeted pregnancies, resources, facilities, and vandalized those facilities with spray painted threats. According to the indictment, Freestone and Smith Stewart and other co-conspirators are alleged to have spray painted threats, the DOJ said, which included those reported by the Winter Haven facility. Winter Haven facility in Polk County experienced vandalism in June after the Supreme Court's reversal of the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision was announced. The graffiti sprayed on the Life Choice Pregnancy Center read, "Your time is up. We're coming for you," and Jane's Revenge. Local outlet The Ledger reported at the time, as well as, "If abortions aren't safe, then neither are you, and we are everywhere." Graffiti reading Jane's Revenge was sprayed across many pregnancy centers across the country over the summer. It first came to the fore after a draft decision of the overturning of Roe was leaked from the Supreme Court. Shortly after that leak, pro-abortion militants calling themselves Jane's Revenge declared that there would be 30 days of patience and mercy, after which mayhem would begin. Your 30 days expired yesterday, they stated in an open letter on June 15th. We offered an honorable way out. You could have walked away. Now the leash is off, and we will make it as hard as possible for your campaign of oppression to continue. We have demonstrated in the past month how easy and fun it is to attack. We are versatile. We are, and you will answer to no one but ourselves. And then they stated their threats. The group took responsibility for recent attacks on the pregnancy and pro-life centers in Madison, Wisconsin, Fort Collins, Colorado, Reisterstown, Massachusetts, Olympia, Washington, Des Moines, Iowa, Linwood, Washington, Washington, D.C., Asheville, North Carolina, Buffalo, New York, Hollywood, Florida, Vancouver, Washington, Frederick, Massachusetts, Denton, Texas, Crenshaw, Oregon, and Eugene, and Portland, which, a lot of Antifa are out that way. So there's a little bit more left in the article, but yeah, these folks have been doing crazy stuff. So I'm glad that you're finally getting some indictments, because, as I said at the top of the hour, you had folks being arrested for and targeted by the DOJ for being like sidewalk advocates, while I'm like, bro, there's like actual domestic terrorism. And the article did mention like the after what happened after the leak and all the stuff happened after the leak. Um, they still haven't like come out with a leaker, and it shouldn't have been that hard to find them. Will Chamberlain had an interesting theory that people were really mad that he said, but it seemed like a fit, and there wasn't a denial. But something interesting though, someone had reported that they just aren't going to look for the leaker anymore. Basically gave up on it. And Jeremy Boring from the Daily Wire said he said something like "hold on" or "stand by." So if they break that story, and they find out who actually did it and have evidence, that would be pretty amazing of the Daily Wire. Will they do anything? I don't know, but I guess someone like that at the very least should be disbarred. But it'll be interesting to find out if they can actually reveal who did it. That'd be a huge story for them to break. So I hope he wouldn't just tweet something like that to just tease, because it definitely was a tease. And I would like to see some justice done in that avenue. Um it was very exciting, at least to hear the news that it could be overturned. And then it took so long. I wondered if, they were gonna go through with it, but of course they did. But I was very glad that nobody was intimidated out of their decision. But if you got the right people on the bench to be honest and look at the law, it was the obvious decision that came down. So if you read the opinion and read the dissent, I don't know, it seems pretty obvious that the right call was made and that the folks who dissented were in their feels for sure. So very glad that some work is being done to catch some of these people. Um as you guys know, I did go to the March for Life this past weekend. And let me just pop up a little picture really quickly, if I got one, with me and my sister. So my sister Tina went with me, and so we had a great time there at the march and talked to a ton of people who were there. And so and then I went to the Students for Life Summit, which Plymouth, when I talked to Right to Life Plymouth, who's one of my gold sponsors, they suggested like you should go to that as well. And so I looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, we could totally do that. So I thought about going to the Women's March as well. I don't know if it did rain or not. It did say like 100% chance of rain. It did snow while I was driving back though, so who knows. Um, but I just kind of didn't meet the budget for me needing to go. Plus, we were really tired. We did more walking than we intended on that day, and so I had plenty of footage from what I wanted to do, and I guess I wasn't in that mindset to quite argue like that. But the sort of questions I was going to ask, I will have to do at some other point of time. But they're going to be triggering sort of questions. Though there were protesters at the March for Life. Before I got to the actual rally, the police ousted some of them. So I just basically saw that online. But there were other protesters when you got like different parts marching around to DC to get up to the Supreme Court. There were some people. And one person, gosh, I was tempted to go back and forth with them, but she was just saying that I don't believe in your God. I don't believe our rights come from God. And from talking to people at the march, the number one reason like people gave me to why they're pro-life is that's basically what their Christian beliefs affirm. And people would say that science does affirm their beliefs, but a lot of people did have non-secular answers. I don't normally lead with religious answers. People had more secular sort of reasoning at the Students for Life Summit, and I don't think that was because they were less religious. I just think they are more trained to debate the topic and know that if you mention religion, people get lost in the weeds really fast. But one thing I thought about like going up to her and asking like, if you don't think our rights come from God, which you could, where do you think that they come from? And by the way, you can the Declaration of Independence, it says we're endowed by a creator with unalienable rights, and you don't have to believe in a creator to believe in the idea that we come into existence with these rights. So I think it's important to kind of nail down with people, like, do you believe in natural rights, or do you think that's something that's granted by government? Because if it is something that's granted by government, we could easily just decide that you don't have a right to an abortion. Like, we get together, we get our representatives, and if they pass some kind of national ban on abortion, then that's what our government has decided and taken away your right to do that. If you really don't believe that rights are somehow inherent, and you don't believe in natural rights and that we have to agree upon them. And if that's what we agree upon, I think that's just kind of what you got to live with. But if you believe in natural rights, certain rights that we are born with, and certain things that the government isn't supposed to interfere with, and not only not interfere with, they're supposed to actually ensure. One of those things is life, and if you don't have a right to life, you can't have any rights. You at least got to have that one first. You at least got to have that one first. And so I played for you guys the other day with Kamala Harris, and she was quoting from the Declaration of Independence, and she said liberty and the pursuit of happiness, but she like suspiciously skipped over life. And I guess it's not that suspicious, but when you have the sort of ideology that she has, you gotta skip over life. Now, did I think we would get like on a fast track to people just editing the Declaration of Independence so they can ignore life? Like, no, I didn't think we were, I guess, barreling that fast in our politics like that. That's pretty remarkable. I think I'll have to edit my book and add that in there because it's so remarkable that she would leave that out. And you can't tell me that it was an accident. I mean, when you say life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, if you've gone through basic government or just grown up and you're in America, those three things just kind of rolls off your tongue. She's the vice president of the United States, and she's reading off of, I'm assuming, a teleprompter, a speech that's been prepped and given to her that people have worked on. She's well aware of the fact that she's skipping over life. So it's terrible what people do to rationalize certain things in their head. So I wish I could have known at least where does she think our rights come from, or what does she think is an actual right? What does she think is a right? So I didn't engage because we were all marching and my feet did really hurt at that point in time. And we had other stuff that we needed to get done and do. So and she was like yelling and screaming, and there was no you gotta pick your battles. And when someone's like already screaming, you don't expect to have productive conversations. Would it have been like worth the footage? I don't know. Maybe not. But I think after we passed her, we got to a group, because I was like, man, I would like to get some more Black people. And all of a sudden I heard choir music. And then there was a group, an organization from South Carolina, and I just started passing the mic to their group, and so many of them had such great content. I can't wait to share it with you guys. So I guess it was best that I left the troll to herself and kept marching on to what was important, and so we didn't have to just hear what someone is screaming in negativity, and got to actually hear people explain their life position. So I got some great footage out of the whole event. So anyway, I want to thank you guys who did support, especially again my gold sponsors. And next week I'll show a lot of content streaming, but I will just upload stuff very soon. And again, I want to mention that I am working on a video detailing the whole Steven Crowder versus Daily Wire situation, and I did record it last night. It is longer than I meant it to be. I am editing it, and it will have like Steven's original video, Jeremy's original video, which, by the way, if you have an opinion on it, and a very strong opinion on it, I don't think it's fair to have not at least seen Steven's initial video and Jeremy's initial in Jeremy's like video when he goes through the whole contract. I don't think it's fair to not at least watch Jeremy's response to get the context of it. Now I watch their videos. I watch Steven on Timcast. I watch Candace on Timcast. I watch Lauren Chen talk about it. I watched Young Ripper talk about it. I watched Megyn Kelly talk about it. I watched a lot of content revolving this to kind of get like a full uh perspective from other people in the industry. But if you're going to have a strong opinion on this, especially I see people canceling their Daily Wire subscriptions, or people saying they're canceling Mug Club. I think at the very least you got to see Steven's like video that's like 30 minutes, it's like 27 minutes or whatever, that starts it off, and then see Jeremy's response to his allegations with the Daily Wire. Now I will say I do think there are some things that I don't like from either party, and I mentioned that in the video. I definitely think that one is more wrong than the other. So you guys can, I think I'm gonna film like a little short one to put on TikTok really quick. But when I get that video out and hopefully be up tomorrow, you guys can see the whole thing. So I only wanted to make one complete video on it. And if you're not familiar with the whole thing, hopefully it will clearly line everything out, especially if you haven't seen as much of the content I have on the issue. But it's a lot. It's a lot. And it is really unfortunate because I do see people questioning the ethics of not just like the business side of things, but like, man, are they conservative? Are they really fighting the good fight? And I don't think this sort of I don't think it warranted this. And I think it would have been better for them if they kept that all in house and it wasn't made into a big thing, but it was. So we have content and we have things to discuss. And I don't know. Hopefully it does some good. Anyway, thank you guys for watching today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. Please check out different merchandise that we have, like Black Tea Mug. I mentioned Joe Biden lying about civil rights and all that stuff. That is on this shirt. Denounce white supremacy, defeat Joe Biden, with a list of some of his racist stuff on the back. There's also a long sleeve version. I have the long sleeve one. It's very comfortable. So you guys can go ahead and get that. The You Ain't Black is also on there. There's quite a bit of stuff on the list, so you guys can go pick that up at blacktnews.com. Also got the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. I really like that shirt as well. So go ahead and look at that content. And again, I do have my book that's available for pre-order. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. Again, I said I don't normally lead with secular arguments with abortion. I got so sick of people saying that life starts at first breath, which is not in the Bible and other stuff. So I just decided to write a book that addresses theology and science and philosophy, and talks about Dennis Prager does something that I think is really smart. He doesn't try to convince people that God is real, but rather that God is necessary. And so some of the moral positions that Christian pro-lifers have, why I feel that they are also moral and necessary for society, just to kind of survive and not have genocidal type of things happen. So you guys can go ahead and go to blacktnews.com. It's actually like on the cover page right now, so you can go ahead and pre-order it. So God bless you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.